After using the DJI SDR system for 3 months, I think it may be the most versatile and reliable wireless system I've used. Now, remember those words, versatile and reliable. Let's get into it. And just so we're on the same page, I purchased all of this with my own money. When the SDR first came out, it really intrigued me because it gave the user the ability to have a smart device transmitter and a traditional transmitter in one unit. In the past, I had always wanted to just hand the director or the gaffer an iPad that they could move around set. So I had tried experimenting and putting a smart device transmitter in tandem with my Vaxis, but unfortunately that caused some pretty serious interference at times, so that was never really an option for me. And now that I own the unit, that's one thing that I really appreciate about it. You don't have to juggle multiple transmitters or worry about interference issues. It's just all in one. Historically, here's how I've set up my sets. I'll have one dedicated monitor for the AC, a dedicated monitor for the director/the set, and then I'll have one for the client. Now, that's worked pretty good in the past, but there's a lot of times that I wanted a 4th or 5th monitor for G&E, wardrobe, or whatever. But as an owner-operator, it can be pretty cost prohibitive to add additional wireless units. Right now, I've got 3 Vaxis Storms, and they're extremely reliable, but they're not exactly the system that they just give away. With a traditional wireless system, you'd have to buy an additional battery, cables, monitor, receiver, which could run you thousands of dollars per setup. And that adds up quick when you're trying to keep everybody happy on set. And when we look at the DJI system, you're talking about a transmitter receiver combo plus an additional receiver or 2, and then everyone else gets an iPad. You either have them bring their own or you buy a few iPads. iPads are around $300 brand new right now, so the cost savings are pretty significant. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is latency. That was the biggest reason that I was hesitant on even trying the system. Cutting to the chase, the DJI SDR system does have more latency than a Vaxis Storm or a Teradek system, but I've had 3 different ACs of different skills pulling off of this system, and we've never missed critical focus once because of the latency. If you want the lowest latency, you're limited to 2 receivers, which is what DJI calls control mode. But if you want unlimited receivers, you can enable broadcast mode, and there's some tricks to getting low latency there too. CVP did a really deep dive and a good video on this, so I'll timestamp it and link it below. Assuming 2 main receivers, let me break down how I've been configuring my sets. First, the AC gets one, and then I daisy chain a set monitor off of the AC's monitor. Second, I have one stationed where the client is, and the signal's strong enough that they can typically be anywhere in the general vicinity of set. And then lastly, I hand an iPad to the director and the gaffer. That way they have a reference monitor that they can move freely around set. And that's probably my favorite part of the system. I can hand off iPads to the director and gaffer, and they can move around the set however they want. And then, of course, I'll always have a calibrated monitor for critical exposure and color adjustments. Let me give you a real example from a recent commercial shoot. We were filming outdoors and the client needed to be indoors for calls in between takes. With the SDR, they could watch everything that was happening in real time with no issues from wherever we were on the property. In the past, this would have cost us some expensive wireless receiver antennas or some compromises. The SDR uses the DJI Ronin app, and here's some features of it. It's got false color, waveforms, histogram, custom LUT support, focus peaking, frame guides, and it's got direct recording to the iPad with audio, so it's great for quick client reviews. I've found this system to be consistently reliable, even in commercial buildings and congested cities, which is slowly increasing my confidence in the system over time. We've gone over some of the stuff that I enjoy about the system, but here's some stuff that DJI did not implement that I wish they would have considered. First of all, there's no loop out on the device if you wanted to daisy chain a monitor. It's okay for the cameras that I have, but I could see that being pretty annoying. So on the bottom, there's a 1/4-20 with locating pins, and then there's no other way to mount it. So I created a dummy MPF battery and 3D printed it so that I could mount it anywhere on the camera. And then I just power it with a USB-C to P-tap cable. Another thing that's disappointing is that it doesn't communicate at all with DJI's higher-end wireless models, which is interesting because it uses virtually the same technology, so you'd think they would communicate, but they don't. So if you've already invested in that, that's something worth considering. And while we're talking about frustrations, let me tell you about the most confusing thing that I've ever had with a wireless system. This wireless system you cannot just use out of the box. You have to download a software from their website onto your computer to activate it. You can't activate it through the Ronin app. You cannot activate it through the website. You have to download a specific software and activate it via that software to be able to even use it. That is a really weird thing to me. I'm not sure why they would make you download an app to be able to use it on the iPad or go to the website to create an account to register, but then you have to download a specific software on your computer to register it. Just doesn't make any sense. So that's a very frustrating and confusing user experience. That's probably the biggest downside that I've seen on this device. The last note is that it can get pretty warm during use, but it's not necessarily a deal breaker, and I don't think that it hurts the device. There's fans in the unit, but they're not necessarily the loudest thing on earth. It's just something to keep in mind. So in closing, here's a summary of my thoughts. It's definitely a budget system, but it doesn't necessarily feel like a budget system. If this is your first wireless kit, or you're considering getting another one for your kit, I wouldn't sleep on it. In fact, I've actually started choosing to use this over some of my professional wireless systems just because it helps streamline set. On my larger sets that I've used it on, I've never had a complaint of image quality or even latency. This system just seems to deliver where it counts. If you've got any questions over this system or just general questions, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to chat with you.